Hello and welcome to the Acting Coach Network podcast. I'm your host, Savannah Madden, acting coach, award-winning theatre school owner and business coach for performing arts professionals who want more time, more income and zero burnout. Today, I'm joined by Kirsty Knott, a mindset and accountability coach who works with ambitious female leaders and small business owners. Kirsty helps people who are stuck in self-doubt, imposter syndrome, and procrastination and understand what's really going on in their brain and how to rewire it for success. After a 20-year career in corporate, including 10 years in HR, Kirsty retrained as a coach. She now supports clients with everything from one-off power sessions through to deep 6-month transformations. Her work isn't just about careers, it's about helping people think differently, be brave, and do the things they've been avoiding. She's also walked the walk herself, from returning to work after maternity leave, navigating a difficult situation, and supporting her husband through a cancer diagnosis. Kirsty has learned firsthand how mindset tools can carry you through even the toughest times. She's here today to share some of those tools with us and to explore what actually stops us from taking action, how to make braver decisions during difficult times, and how we as acting coaches and theatre school owners can rewire our brains for growth. Kirsty Knott, welcome to the Acting Coach Network podcast.
Hello, well, thank you very much for having me.
You're very welcome. So, Kirsty, I always love to start right at the beginning so that everybody can hear where it all started for you. So I'd love to start with your story. What led you from a corporate HR career into mindset and accountability coaching?
Yeah, so like you said, I worked in HR for the last 10 years of my career and went off on maternity leave. And before I went off, I was like, right, I'll be back and I want a promotion and I want the next thing and all that sort of stuff as we do. And I went off on maternity leave and I just went, whoa, what on earth is happening here? Everything changed. And I never thought that would be me. I never thought that would be the person that I was. I was like, I'll go away, I'll have a baby, I'll come back, nothing will change. Life's life. And everything changed. So I went off and had a bit of time to myself to reflect. I mean, as much time as you can with a baby, but had some time to sort of reflect and think like, what do I really want in life? I got into HR because I loved helping people, I loved supporting people, I loved seeing people get on and progress and all that great stuff. And I ended up in a job that was kind of all about, we need to make more people redundant, we need to save this money, we need, it was a lot of the negative side of kind of HR was seen as quite negative. And it just wasn't giving us any joy anymore. It wasn't lighting us up. It wasn't doing all those things. And obviously having my little boy just changed everything. I wanted to be at home more with him. I wanted to make that work. And I sort of sat and reflected on my job. What things do I love? What things do I hate? Worked it through that. And I thought, coaching is where it's at for me. It's the stuff that I've always loved, the part of my role I've loved. So let's start. So while I was on maternity leave, I started training as a coach and get my qualifications because that was really important to me. And it just sort of went from there. Yeah, went all in, started a business.
I can't relate to you more because I think our children are a little bit similar in age. I know I was very similar. Like, yeah, I'll go off and then I'll go back to my previous schedule and, it'll be fine. And it's really not.
Yeah. This baby, they'll sit in the corner. It'll work around me.
Yeah. They'll just slot into my life. I think I might have maybe said out loud.
Yeah.
And in the intro, I mentioned some really tough life experiences that you've navigated while building your business. So can you, if you feel comfortable, can you tell us about one of those or two of those moments and how your mindset tools helped you to keep going in those tough times?
Yeah, so I mean, everything happened at the same time, which is, not slow. And it was one of those moments where you think there's never a right time to do this. I was already debating, do I stay at work? Do I leave work? I'd just gone back to work. I'd been there a few weeks. Do I just throw the towel in? Do I just, go all in on the business and stuff? What do I do here? And then I was navigating a difficult situation with them. Working arrangements had changed. I was going to have to work away from home a lot more and stuff. And it didn't fit with what I needed for my family. And then my husband got diagnosed with cancer, steal my thunder a little bit and throw some more fuel on the fire. But actually, it was such a difficult time, but it was such a great time because it really helped us reflect on what was important. And ultimately, my family was the most important thing. So navigating that time, the things that I found really helpful, luckily I'd started my coaching journey, I had some clients, I had done all my training and stuff. So I was able to really put into practice a lot of things that I'd learned throughout that. So there was a few things that really helped. I started journaling, which I'd never done before. And really, like, there's so many journals out there, like, for so many different things. And I just found just a blank piece of paper, just getting everything out my head. It really helped me to process and manage my emotions, to understand what was really going on. And sort of stopped us spiraling. Just having that brain dump at the end of the day was really, really good. Gratitude, making sure I was practicing gratitude every day. I mean, it obviously sounds weird when you're kind of going through all that, but reminding yourself that no matter how bad it is, there's always somebody in a worse place. And actually we were dealing with these difficult situations, but we had an amazing support network, and we had amazing friends and family and people really caring for us. We had a roof over our head, and you know what I mean? There's like, it could have been so much worse. So that was always really helpful. And reframing things around what was going on. I remember the day my husband got diagnosed, and I remember coming back from the hospital, and we just sort of like didn't know what to say. We just sort of stood a bit blank and stuff. And I just, look, it's just what we've got to deal with. At the end of the day, we've had a really good life. We've been together for a lot of years. We've not really experienced anything too bad. We haven't had a lot of grief. We haven't had a lot of difficult situations. We've had it pretty easy, really. I think this is just our time, unfortunately. Like, we're just going to have to deal with it together, and just really focusing on laughter, the people around us, and trying to make, sounds a bit morbid sometimes, but just trying to make light of the situation and saying, laughing my way through it and cracking some dark jokes at times. But sometimes, like, laughter can be the best medicine. So yeah, I found those things were probably the best things that helped me at the time.
Laughter is the best medicine.
Yeah.
That is incredible, because there isn't anything you can do in that situation. I've heard quite a few dark jokes from people who've also found themselves in these sorts of situations, and I've always thought, oh gosh, but actually you're right. If you can't laugh, you're going to cry, aren't you? So you might as well enjoy as much as you can. I love all the other things that you said. Journaling, I'm the same. I love the thought of all these journals with all the great prompts and all the beautiful artwork, but actually just a notebook and pen is fine for me. And perhaps gratitude, so important, isn't it?
Yeah, really important. And I think, what you were saying before, it's bringing it back to focusing on what's in your control. Like, we cannot control the cancer diagnosis. We cannot control the organisation and what I was having to kind of go back into, but we could control the decisions we were making, how we were choosing. And I remember, like, we were literally like, right, we don't want to look back on this time in our life and think, oh my God, that was horrendous. We want to look back and think of really good, positive memories. So we were literally like, right, okay. Like, I remember, like, honestly, about 5 days after finding out about Ant and stuff, we took Alfie to the aquarium for the first time, and I remember walking around there, and that's some of the memories that come back, going out on nice walks, spending time with friends, all of that sort of stuff. That's what we could control. We could control being able to do all that stuff, and that's what helped.
And it's also having that perspective, isn't it? And trying to use your time the best you can, and having amazing memories. I love that. So I want to move forward now to looking at all the different things that you help your clients with. So a lot of theatre school owners, performing arts business owners, I don't think I'm speaking out of turn here when they say might know the feeling of procrastination, especially about decision making or putting off things that are really important but really need to be done. So whether that's launching a new class, putting your prices up, that can be quite daunting for people, showing up on social media, things like that. So from your perspective, what's actually happening in the brain when we retreat instead of take action?
Yeah. So what's happening is, when we're faced with something scary, and that's what it is, it's something that's abnormal, it's not something we've done before, we start retreating and we start procrastinating and we start going, let's not do that. Let's just run away and hide. There's nothing wrong with you. It is very, very normal. Actually, what it is it's very, very right. Your brain is doing exactly what it was created to do, which is keep you safe. It knows what it knows. It wants to keep you in that little box, and it wants to keep you hiding away because you're safe, right? You're safe in your house with a cup of tea and a blanket wrapped around you. You are not safe putting yourself out online. What if people look at me? What if people comment horrible things about me? What if it doesn't work? All of that sort of stuff. That is just too scary. So that amygdala, so the middle part of your brain kicks in, and that's when you hear people talk about your fight flight mode. So it's literally like, run away, leg it, don't come back, lock yourself away in a box. And it just tells us that it's danger, because that's what our bodies are designed for. That's, where it all come from. But what we have to realize now in the world that we live in now is it's not danger. It's not life or death. It's not that big. It's just a little bit scary. But what happens is that when that kicks in, your prefrontal cortex, which is the front part of your brain, that's where logic lives. It's, when you're sitting and everything's calm and everything's fine, and you're like, oh yeah, I could put a new offer out. Oh yeah, I could raise my prices. That makes sense. But when it comes to press the button, that amygdala kicks in, it completely shuts down, and that takes over. So that's when we can end up just procrastinating, I can't do it, all those thoughts go running through our head. It is not laziness, nothing's wrong with you, everything's right with you. You're just trying to keep you safe. That's all happening.
And when I did your introduction, we had obviously had a chat beforehand, and you used the word rewiring. So what does that really mean in practice? Because many of our listeners are creative people who love teaching and performing, but sometimes the business side, it feels a bit heavy. Maybe they don't feel like a business owner at the moment. It's more like it's a dance or an acting school, but it is a business. So how can they use mindset tools to push through that resistance?
Yeah. So what's happening here is that there's a saying that says cells that fire together wire together. So we've got neurons all in my brain, all through our body in different places. So in your gut, in your heart, when you get those feelings like anxiety, it shows up here. Like when you get that sickly feeling, it shows up. It's all linked. It's all your neurons. But what happens is the more you repeat behavior, and the more you do things and the more you say things, that those neurons and the connections get stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger. So that's how we learn, right? So when we're kids and you are learning to talk, it's all that stuff. The more you do it, that repetition. So you think, like I was teaching toddlers how to talk and stuff like that. You've got to repeat yourself about 1,000,000 times to get it to click. But then once it clicks, that's just hardwired in your brain. It keeps you going. Now, what we can do is we can rewire that. So you might have beliefs, and we get this throughout childhood. All of these neurons, that pathways, they strengthen as you're learning everything. And then when we get older, we're kind of like, we get a bit stuck in our ways, and it's like, right, that's it. But you can rewire them. And it is as simple as practicing different choices on repetition. Keep going, keep doing it. Even if you don't believe it at first, keep doing it. And it will literally get stronger and stronger and stronger. So say you've got a belief right now of like, I am not good enough. Who the hell am I to do this, right? And that's really strong, and it just keeps coming up every time you try and do something. If we can start reframing that and start telling ourselves, I can do this. You can do this. You have delivered on what it is that you said you're going to do. It all worked. It's all fine. You're not going to die. It's not life or death. It's all okay. You start telling you those things, you can then strengthen those pathways, and you can forget the other bits. You can make those other parts smaller and smaller and smaller. So, if you think about going to school, all that stuff you learn in school, if I asked you now to go and, speak French that you learn in year 6, could you speak French? Probably not. But at the time you could have done. But when we don't use it, it can loosen those connections and we can forget about it. So it literally is. It's like coming back to what I was saying before about focusing on what you can control. The more you focus on that, knowing you've got a choice here, you can choose to tell yourself you're not good enough and it's all going to fail. Or you can choose to tell yourself, no, I am blooming good enough and I am going to make this successful. The more you believe it, the stronger those pathways become, the more you're going to go out and actually take action and do all those things that you've been putting off.
That is so interesting, because I love the thought of forgetting the limiting beliefs.
It's the same thing around like running as an example. So I started training for the Great Off Run last year. So after Anne's cancer diagnosis, we said we're going to run the Great Off Run to raise money for this amazing charity that we've been working with. And but I always had this thing. I used to go out and I used to see people running. I'd be like, I could never be a runner. I'll never do that. I'll never be one of them people who goes on holiday and goes out for runs. I wish I could do that, but I just can't do that. I can't. And I used to tell myself that all the time. And actually, when it come down to it, I was like, right, well, I have to be a runner now because I'm going to do the Great North Run. So actually, what I can do this, and I changed that mindset around it and started telling myself, you can do this, just break it down and start. So I literally started couch to 5K, broke it all down. Smaller runs become bigger runs, you know, slower runs become quicker runs. And before you know it, unfortunately, I am now a runner. I run very regularly.
And I love that you said, I could never be a runner that goes for a run on holiday, because I've just been that person. I was running on holiday. Yeah, loved it, because I'm in the middle of doing couch to 5K again at the moment. That's such a good example, though. I think so many people will be able to relate to that specific one, just like I did, or something very similar that, you know, you can replace running with. So we just sort of touched on limiting beliefs. What about imposter syndrome? Come on. It's
God,
huge. It's huge everywhere, isn't it? So many people who are experiencing it. It's pretty hefty in the performing arts industry, I have to say. So come on, tell us, please. What can we do? What are some practical things we can do when that inner critic is just loud?
Yeah, it does. And it does get loud and it's awful and it just takes over everything and you just feel like an absolute blooming failure, right? It's basic.
There's
a couple of exercises that I love. This one especially is great. So what you're going to do is you're going to sit down and I want you to think about somebody in your life or somebody you know or a character of a film or whatever it be, but somebody who you go, not in a million years would I ever ask you for advice, right? Like, there's somebody like that will come straight to your head, right? And you'll go, I would never, ever ask them for advice, right? So we've got that name in my head, right? Then what I want you to do is sit down and make a list. Now, this list, you just want it to be, who are you in in 2 years' time? Who do you want to be? And we'll write it all in the positive tense, as in you are doing it now. So I am a great mother. I am very patient. I run an extremely successful business. I make X amount of money a month. Whatever it is for you, you want to think, you know, what are the physical things you've got? What are the key personality traits you have? Like, what are all those really positive things? And write it all. And you can literally keep adding and adding. I've got a list. There's about 50 odd things on there, right? So you're going to write all that down. So you've got it in your head. And then what happens is when that critic gets loud, you need to take a breath and ask yourself, what would X say? So that name that I said to you before, that person, you would just go, get lost. I don't want to know. I'm not asking your opinion. You're just going to say, thank you very much. I'm not choosing to believe you right now. I want to know what Savannah, 2 years from now, what would she do? And ask that and think about that. Really positive. Who is that person? What are they doing? That is me. That is you. You have this choice. What would they do right now? What would this annoying person who gets on your way and stops you from doing everything, what would they do? No, I don't know. Thank you. Goodbye. We're going to focus on the positive from there.
Love that. So I actually have a name for my inner critic and I'm just like, not now, Gertrude, not now. And Gertrude is not actually based on anybody real, but now I'm thinking, maybe I'll change. Have you got any advice of what to do when you're so in because that exercise sounds amazing in principle, and I think if you're working with a coach, you know, who can guide you through that and really, really help you. But if you're just trying to still do this alone and you're in that thick of it, of where you just can't see the wood for the trees and you just feel so down on yourself, how can you remind yourself of these sort of techniques when you're just kind of a bit in the trenches, as it were?
Because it's hard, right? When you're in it and it's just taken over and that front part of your brain shut down and you're just like, oh,
that's it.
We need to breathe, right, is the first thing. You need to really take some deep breaths. So you can do box breathing. So breathing in for 4, holding for 4, breathing out for 4, holding for 4, and do that a few times. And it just calms everything down. You need to physically tell yourself, I am okay. Nobody's died. What's the worst that can happen? Those types of questions to make yourself snap back into reality. It is just literally when you are finding yourself, and it is very individual for each person. There's different things work. So for some people, it might be, I just need to take a couple of deep breaths, ask myself a couple of questions. I could calm myself down. You might find that actually for you, I need to just create space. So I need to just get up from my laptop. I'm just going to go and take a 10-minute walk. I'm going to get outside. I'm going to come
really
back.
works for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that really works for me.
And some of this is trial and error. You have to figure out what works for you. You might be sitting there next week and you start doing some box breathing at your desk and you think, Kirsty, you're flipping an eye at what you're doing. That hasn't worked. But it might just not be your thing. You've got to do a bit of trial and error with this stuff and figure out what really works. But I find that if I'm, really up a height and tell people, share that with people. So like, if I'm really up a height about something and I'm like, I can't see the wood for the trees and I'm getting all frustrated, and my husband will sometimes just go, why don't you just go for a walk? You're not being productive. You're faffing. Just go for a walk for half an hour. There's too much to do. No. And I'm like, I know he's right. I'm just going to stop. I'm going to go away. I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to come back. And I guarantee you'll feel a lot better and be able to then just start again.
Definitely. I think that's so true, because obviously everybody is different, as you say.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to react differently, but they're at least some starting blocks, aren't they? Take some time out, because as you say, you're not going to be productive if you're in that kind of high state, as it were.
Yeah.
So we've spoken about tough times, and now I want to move on to how do we make difficult decisions in those difficult times, because when we're facing hardship, sometimes everything still has to keep going. In some scenarios, obviously we might be able to take time off and stop and take the time that we need for ourselves, but in other situations life has just got to keep on going, hasn't it? So how do we, when we are in these difficult times, how do we make decisions, and why do we default to avoiding it? Is that still the same sort of thing with fight and flight? Yeah.
So it's the same thing that's happening. It is just that we just avoid things. It's fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. So that's the bit where you can just literally be like, I'm just going to do nothing and I'm just going to sit and doom scroll on my phone, because that's much easier to do. It's that same thing that's happening. Now, what we can do is, there is no magic pill, I'm afraid. I can't just get you, right, listen to this. I'm going to tell you one quick thing and you're going to have changed your life and you're never going to look back. It is about taking small reps and making small changes. And that courage will build resilience over time. So it's not about, we've got to think about what are the things that can make this decision easier. How can I help myself? My coach uses this analogy. She used this analogy with me once around, where she was like, you stood on the edge of a cliff and you've got to jump. So you've got to jump and it's going to happen, but you're stopping yourself. You stop yourself. What are the things you could do to build yourself a parachute so that jump becomes a little less scary? So think about, what are all those small little things that you could do just to make it a little less. So if you're in a situation and you're thinking, oh my God, that looks like a really, really scary situation and I keep avoiding it all the time, is there something else that relates to that? Is there something similar where you're doing those patterns of behaviour, but maybe in a situation that's not quite as scary? How can we start changing those things to have a bit more control? So if I use an example of somebody that I was talking with, and they were talking about change is really scary, and it's around actually the lack of control. Doesn't like to be out of control. And she used an example of when she watches a movie. She'll sit at the beginning of a movie and she'll say, right, well, this could happen, this could happen, this could happen, this could happen. I guarantee she's probably done the whole plot for the film and just ruined it for the other person, right? But for her, when she realised, was like, oh, what I'm actually doing there is I need the control. I need to control, like, I need to know the outcome of this. So it was like, right, okay, so you've got this other big scary thing that you're dealing with. This is a small example of when you're using those patterns of behaviour. So what I want you to do is, next time you sit down with a movie, I want you to stop yourself. I want you to stop yourself and tell you, it's all right, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what happens at the end of this movie. I'm going to watch it anyway. I'm going to find out. So it's okay. By doing those little things, you can start that rewiring process. of changing it. And then the more over time and time and time we start making these decisions and doing these scary things, your brain goes, oh, hang on a minute, you didn't die. You're all right. Oh, you can do that again. That's fine. Do you think about the first time as a business owner you post on social media? I think back to the first video I put on. Horrendous. When I look at it now, horrendous. Hours and hours of filming. Hated every second of it. Analysed it to an inch of its life. Checked my phone every 30 seconds after I posted it. But actually, the more I've done it, the more I've done it, the more I've done it. Now I'm just like, okay, yeah, done. Like, done, whatever. Not bothered. Is what it is. And that is exactly what we need to just keep doing. But it takes time.
And it's just about having that self-awareness, like the person you were talking about with the film, like being able to have that amount of awareness to recognize that that's what they were doing and then be able to practice not doing it is really, really great. And also just enjoy the film.
Maybe I can be bad at doing that sometimes. I'm like, yeah, that's the person that killed him. Like, that's the person that's done this. They're clearly dodgy.
We've all been there, haven't we? Amazing. So looking back on your journey in business, what's been your biggest lesson about balancing business, family and life and all of that sort of thing?
I think my biggest lesson is balance looks different for everybody, and we need to really stop comparing ourselves. You can look at people online who are like, I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and I go to the gym and I do all this stuff and I'm working still at midnight and I don't mind working till 1 in the morning, all that sort of stuff. I've got a toddler, right? I need my sleep. I need my sleep. But we need to stop comparing ourselves to other people, and we really need to figure out what works for us and our family, because balance can just be really messy. My son, we've got a bit of a routine. He's got a couple of days at nursery where he's half days. He's got a day at nursery where he's a full day. Does that mean sometimes I get up early in the morning? Very rarely, but sometimes if I have to, I do. I work when he's at nursery. Does that mean put my laptop on at 9 o'clock at night? Yeah, but does that bother us? No. I'd much rather have that time with him in the middle of the day and then, do that stuff later. You just have to figure out what works for you, and don't feel guilty if you are not chained to your desk like 10 hours a day, 7 days a week. That works for some people, right? Fine, go and do that. That what works for you, but it doesn't have to be like that for everybody. You've just got to find out what works for you and just go with it. Stop comparing everybody else.
Yeah, and also no shade on anyone that gets up early and works late, because we've all been there at some point, haven't we? But it's the fact that sometimes it's worn as a badge of honor, and actually there is nothing good about working hours and hours and hours and potentially burning yourself out, working yourself into the ground, because it surely isn't sustainable. It can't be, can it? You can't be doing that all of the time. And I think with a lot of people in the performing arts, it's due to lack of systems in place, lack of delegation. And I think a lot of these business owners would prefer not to be working all of these hours, but feel like they don't have a choice. And so it's all about educating yourself into what works better in your business to make everything much more systemized and streamlined and all of that sort of thing. But obviously it all takes a lot of time as well. But I love that balance does look different for everybody. And the other thing is that coaches and theatre school owners often feel pulled in, 10 different directions at once. And I've spoken to so many people in this industry, which I'm sure is the same for all industries, is that you have to wear lots of hats and you have to do lots of different jobs before you've kind of built your team and created roles for everybody within that team. So what's one mindset shift that could help business owners feel more calmer and in control if they are feeling quite stretched and pulled all over the place?
Yeah, I think there's the two big things for me is the first one's ask yourself the question, what really matters right now? We can so often look and you can't see that the wood for the trees. You've got all these different things going on right now, but you need to stop and think, right, what actually matters? Like, if I don't do this one thing, will my business just burn down tomorrow? Right? That's what really matters right now, and focus on that. So then off the back of that, it's focusing on one thing at a time. Stop trying to do everything at once. We need to really set some clear time and do one thing really well rather than doing 10 things really badly. You'd much rather that. So think that effect over a couple of weeks of you've been doing those 10 things every single day and really poorly, and it's not really working, or every day you do one thing really well over the next couple of weeks and actually you could have things sorted. But I totally get it when you're in the midst of it and we're trying to juggle everything, but breaking it down can really, really help to do that. And it's about what works for you again. Sort of, does blocking your diary out work? Does planning that time? Does writing lists help you so you can have that, when you tick it off? Oh, yeah, done. Love a list.
Oh, I love that bit.
Yeah. But figuring out what works for you, what works for your body and all that sort of stuff. So it's the same as, when we're talking there about the balance, it's like it has to be what works for you. You need to pay attention to how you operate. 5 doesn't fit everybody. I like working on a night time because it's quiet. I haven't got toddler jumping on my head. My brain works quite well late at night and I can just be like, and I can get quite a bit of stuff done. First thing in the morning, doesn't want to work, doesn't want to switch on. Or I need to probably go out for a run first or go and get some fresh air or whatever that be before I start doing that. But other people are on the flip side. Other people are first thing in the morning. That's when I'm most productive. Pay attention to yourself. Even just make a note over a few weeks. What's actually happening? When is it actually happening? When am I most productive? That day I got absolutely loads done, but the next day I did nothing. Right? Why? And learn from that and build your routine off the back of it.
That's really interesting because I feel like only in the last 6 months have I really, maybe not even 6 months actually, maybe the last 3 months, I have really found my sweet spot of when I'm the most productive. But it has taken, I've been a business owner for over 10 years. It's taken quite a long time. So hopefully people hearing that piece of advice will be able to tune in a little bit more and just find their rhythm, find what works. And if you could give one piece of advice to a fellow business owner who is feeling a bit stuck or unsure right now, what would that be?
Stop thinking about it and just do it. Just take some action. So all these things I've talked about is how your brain operates. It is all just trying to keep yourself safe. So see, you've got 2 options to do. Just stop thinking about it. Pick one, do it. If it doesn't work, do the other one, because I guarantee it'll work quicker than sitting there and doing nothing about it at all. So just do it. Just start taking some small actions every single day. It doesn't have to be, like I was saying earlier, just diving off that cliff head first into the unknown. But what are the small little things you can do? Break it all down and just start taking some action.
And that was something that I noticed you said earlier as well about breaking things down. When we think about goal setting, we're always breaking it down into smaller chunks to be able to hit that ultimate goal, whatever that might be. And it's just so similar with all these other things that we're trying to achieve, because ultimately they're all like little goals anyway, aren't they? To try and have a bit more balance, to try and work out when we're most productive and all of that sort of things. Kirsty, you've shared some absolutely incredible gems today. So thank you so much. I'm sure people are absolutely desperate to know where they can find out more about you, hear about your work, and how can they connect with you?
Yeah, so you can find me over on Instagram at Expansions Coaching. So that is the business. I'm also on LinkedIn under Kirsty Knott. You can find me over there. We've also just set up our first podcast that went out live today, so that's exciting.
Oh my gosh, that's
with
exciting.
Me and my husband, and we will be talking about similar things like we spoke about today. In each episode, we will take a different lens on what's potentially happening, giving you practical tools and tips how to do that. So you can find us over there on any of your big platforms, wherever you get your podcasts from, or YouTube. And the podcast is called Unstuckable.
Well, thank you again so much for joining me. It has been wonderful.
Thank you very much for having us. I loved it.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Acting Coach Network podcast. If you loved what you heard, make sure you're following. And if you've got a moment, I'd love you to leave a quick review or share the episode with someone else in the industry who might just need it. You can find me over on Instagram at the Acting Coach Network. And if you're looking for support to grow your theatre school or coaching business without burning out. Check out the latest tips, tricks, and behind the scenes over on Instagram, and you can also book a free 15-minute call with me to see if we would be the right fit to work together. You can also find my latest free resource in the show notes. I'll be back soon with more real conversations, expert insights, and tools to help you build a business you love. Until next time, keep going, stay kind to yourself, and I'll see you soon.